Navkaran, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, this meetup is organized by Lavina Ambani, VP Customer Success, Anil Bawne, Associate Solution Architect, and me. I work as Senior Manager Service Delivery. And please move to the next slide. And our two senior consultants, Navkaran and Achaleshwar, will be presenting on the topic. Hope you find it insightful. Feel free to post your questions in the chat for our team to answer. So, handing over to Navkaran now. Please go ahead.
Yep, thank you so much, Akhil. A very good evening to everyone. I am Navkaran Singh, currently working as a senior solution consultant with Caelius Consulting. I'm having 3+ years of experience and I worked on various integration use cases. I'm having the requirement, I worked on various use cases also, which includes the requirement gathering, API implementation, testing for the APIs. Thank you so much. Achaleshwar, can you please go ahead with your introduction?
Yes, Navkaran. Welcome everyone to the Mohali Meetup. My name is Achaleshwar Singh. Yeah, let me share my screen. Yeah. Welcome to the Mohali Meetup. My name is Achaleshwar Singh, and I am currently working as a senior solution consultant in Caelius Consulting, and I am having 3+ years of experience in MuleSoft, and I have worked on various projects and also worked on end-to-end integration, which includes requirement gathering, designing, implementing, testing, and deployment of applications. Uh, this is from my side only. Yeah, I'm starting with the presentation with the safe harbor statement. Both the speakers and host are organizing this meetup at individual capacity. We are not representing our organization here. This presentation is strictly for learning purpose only. We do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business use case also. This presentation is also meant for not meant for any promotional activities. Yeah. Now the agenda for this MuleSoft meetup is basically we are going to cover what is custom connector, why we require custom connector in Mule 4, and what is Mule SDK. Then we are having types of Mule SDK, which are XML SDK, Java SDK, and then trivia and Q&A session would be there. So let's start with the custom connector. So custom connector is basically a reusable component in which is we are having in Mule applications, which we use to connect with third-party system, external systems, as well as services. Uh, in which by which we are going to make some integration. Let's suppose if we want to connect our application with the SAP system or Salesforce and any other target system, we need some connector or we need to write some code for that. So basically by using connector we are creating a reusable component that we can use in various multiple applications, and we can connect with our end system and make some integration. Now move to why we require custom connector in Mule 4. Basically in Mule 4, benefits of custom connectors are reusability. Let's suppose we have created one connector and we can use it in multiple applications. We don't need to write whole logic again and again. uh, we can just drag and drop that particular connection and make our integration possible. Then we are having a abstraction of complexity. Let's suppose we are having basically a connector which is basically a integration which is required 100 lines of code, and we need to write that code multiple times wherever we want that integration. So if we create a connector, then we can simply use that connector and run the integration, and it will abstract the whole code into a one connector unit. So by this we can achieve abstraction of complexity. Then we are having flexibility. So basically now we are having our connector ready, and we want to use it in multiple applications where multiple endpoints are there. Then we can achieve flexibility. We are flexible, we can make any other another endpoint and use the same connector in that. So but at last we are having maintainability. Let's suppose we want to make some modifications in a connector, and if we are not using a custom connector, then we need to change it each and every place where we are using that code. And if we maintain the proper custom connector, then we can only change it on a particular area, then it will reflect to all other parts where we are using that connector. So these are all the benefits of using custom connector in Mule 4. Then we are having Mule SDK. Mule SDK is basically a software development kit. Basically, it is useful for creating custom connectors. It is having tools, all the tools, frameworks, libraries, as well as which is useful for creating Mule XML SDK as well as the Java SDK. Java connector we can also create, XML connector we can also create using the Mule SDK. Then it is basically of two types. First one is XML SDK, and then we are having Java SDK. Yeah, now Navkaran, please continue with the XML SDK. I'm handing over to you for XML SDK.
Sure. Thank you so much, Achaleshwar.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yeah. So now moving over to the XML SDK. So this is the basic structure for the XML SDK, the module structure we could say. It consists of the basic module, the properties, and the operations. In the operations, we are having the parameters, body, output, and the error. Moving over to the brief introduction for each of the module structure we are having. So what is a module? Module is basically the root element for our SDK, XML SDK. For moving over to the properties could be generally considered as the global configuration. For example, if we can say that suppose in an API there are some parameters or some configuration that we need to use multiple times in our API. So instead of writing them again and again, we can use them as a property, and they could be considered globally over our whole API. Now moving over to the operations. Operations are the input parameters that are custom connected that we will be creating, will be having. In the operations, we will be having the input parameter that we will be passing into our custom connector, the body. In the body, we will be having the logic that we need to implement over our parameters that we got in the custom connector. And the output is the return type from our custom connector that we will be having. And the errors are basically to handle the errors if there is some in our custom connector. Now moving ahead with that. So what is the procedure for creating a custom connector with the XML SDK? So for creating a custom connector, we need to run the below query in a command prompt. We will be going through the demo for that. So I will be showing you how you can create a custom connector in the XML SDK. So for now, I'm just giving you the brief for that through the presentation. So we need to run this query in our command prompt, which will be describing our archetype, the artifact ID, and the group ID for the custom connector that we will be having. You can adjust the connector name that you want to use. So I've created a demo for that. I've used the weather converter. So that's why we use that query here. After running that query, if you get a build success for that, you need to import the project that you have created in the Anypoint Studio. And when you will import the project, then you need to clean install that project. The Maven, we need to Maven clean install that project so that custom connector is can be run in any other API we want. For that, when you will be doing the clean install, you will be getting the various errors for that also. The first one you might encounter is the Maven plugin. There will be error for the Maven plugin. It will be there will be some a plugin that won't be present there. So you need to add the Maven plugin to successfully build your project. And another is the repository for the Emunate. There will be some Emunate present in your project. So for that, there is a by default the repository for that won't be present there. So you need to add the repository in your POM file so that you can successfully build your project. Then you need to at last you need to Maven clean install your project, and we use the dskip test because we have skipped the Emunate test for that because we haven't added. Now moving over to the XML SDK implementation. So yeah, let me show you the implementation for the XML SDK. So let me create a new connector also. So as discussed, we need to run that query in the command prompt. Let me give a default name as example. Also be example.
Hey Navkaran, your screen is not presentable. Could you please present your screen again?
Let me just a second. Let me represent my screen.
Yeah, please.
Just a second. How about now?
Yes, yes, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
now it's visible. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Achaleshwar. Okay. So as discussed, I've put that command in my command prompt, and I've changed the name with the example converter. I'm just gonna create example converter. After execution of that command, it's asking for the default names that my connector gonna use. So I'm fine with that. So the name is hello. So yes, it's build success. So the project for my custom connector is created. So then we need to import that project in our Anypoint Studio. So you need to go to journal, and in the journal, go over to the project from folder or archive. Then you need to go to the directory. So this is that it came up here. So as you see, the module is created. The root element for my XML SDK is created. And in that, we are having operation. And in operation, the by default value given is, you can see in the set payload, it's given, it's by default. You can add up anything, any logic that you want to add up. Now moving over to the POM file. So, let me show you the errors that come up. So we need to, as discussed, we need to clean install that project, right? So let's move to the change the directory. And then we need to skip the tests. So as you see, we got up some errors. The Mule Runtime error, the plugin isn't there. So we need to add the Mule plugin here. So just copy that, add up in your POM. Can add up after build. Again rerun with the clean install. So see, now you got a munit runner. So munit runner, the repository for that isn't there. So you need to add the repository for that. So just copy that, paste that here. So yeah, so you see, I got a build success for that. So my custom connector is created with the XML SDK. So you can now use this custom connector in whichever API you want in your, by just putting over the dependency for that. I'll show you how you can put the dependency for that also. So initially my custom connector is created with the name of example converter. So I'll now show you the demo that I've created, the weather converter. So yeah. So yeah, this is the connector that I've created, the weather one. Okay. So as I just told you, what how about the property? The property is about the global configuration. So for example, this is the configuration that we require multiple times in our API. So I have added them as the property. I'll show you how it will pop up in the connector also. So just API name, API version, and the Mule environment. And I've added the two operations. The first one Celsius to Fahrenheit, and the another operation I've added is Fahrenheit to Celsius. For Celsius to Fahrenheit, I have added a single input from the user. User will be entering just the Celsius with the type of number, and that will be converted into the corresponding Fahrenheit value. I've set the logic for that in my body. And similarly, again, another operation that I've created is Fahrenheit to Celsius. With a single user will just enter a single number from here, and the corresponding logic I've written here into the body, it will convert into the Celsius. Okay, so So yeah, so so if you need to move this connector to a system, so I've created another system API, the system weather API. So for example, in your system API, you need to get a connector and you need to get all the conversion values for that. So just go over to the POM file, and in the dependency, so yeah, in the dependency, just add the group ID for the connector you have created, the artifact ID, the classifier, and the version. And that you will be getting in the starting here only, the group ID, or copy these values to here in your system API POM file, and you will be getting the connector here. The connector will be present in your system API. I'll show you how it will pop up. So you see, so this is the connector that pop up, and in the dependency I've added the first operation. I told you the Celsius to Fahrenheit, and another is Fahrenheit to Celsius. These are the two operations that I've created. And in the connector, I've added just one parameter that will be inputting the values from the user, the Celsius, and in the another, the Fahrenheit. These are the two parameters with a different name I've provided. And in the first one, let me show you that also. The module. So as I show you, these are the three properties, global properties that I've added. So if you need to use them anywhere in our whole API, you can just configure them as global. And in the global, I've added the value as system weather API. I've given the version 1.1. Mule environment, I've just given random name UAT. You can give XYZ what you ever want to give here. So yeah. So now question may come up, like how you change the icon for your custom connector. So you see, I've just added my icon for a custom connector. You can use any icon for your custom connector, whichever you may like. For that, you need to create a folder with the name of icon in your project that for the custom connector that is there. The name should be icon only. If you use any other name instead of icon, the connector image may not show up, and the name of the icon should also be icon. If you use any other name instead of icon, again the same issue will make pop up. So you need to keep that in mind. And now I'll show you the running for this API. So what I've done, I've just logged the value for Fahrenheit, and in the payload for also the output, I've just response, I've added the just log the value. Let me run that instead of debugging. No worries, we can debug that, no worries. So it's deployed. So firstly, let's convert Fahrenheit value to Celsius. So let me put so you got the corresponding Celsius value as 31.6. Let's write 102. You got corresponding Celsius value. Now, if you want this Celsius, so if you put the Celsius in the next operation, I've put the Celsius value 67. You got the corresponding Fahrenheit value. So yeah, that's how my connector is working, and it's working successfully correct. Now, I just need to tell you one more thing that you need to keep up in your mind. Let me close that first of all. So in the weather connector that I've created, the custom connector, in the POM file, for example, you have done some changes in your connector that you have created. For that, each time you need to upgrade your version. For example, I've done some changes in my XML for my connector. For example, I've added one more operation. I've added numerous operations. So you, after addition for that, you need to save your XML, and then you need to just update the value for that in my POM file. The version should be updated. After updating the version, you need to clean install the Maven clean install. And after doing a proper Maven clean install, the system API, wherever you are using your dependency, you need to update your version here. If you don't update your version in the system API after doing a clean Maven install, it won't the changes won't reflect in your system API. So you just need to keep that in mind after after changing the things in your connector that you have created. So yep, that's all from the XML SDK that we covered up. So, Achaleshwar, you can go over with your Java SDK. And meanwhile, if there is some questions you may come up in messages, I will try to answer all your questions. So you can question whatever you have. You can put it into the chat area. Thank you.
Thank you, Navkaran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Navkaran, for providing us deep information about XML SDK as well as creating connector using XML. Let me share my screen and move further with the Java SDK. Hope you're able to see my screen.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me present it again. Yeah, is it visible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now moving further with the Java SDK. Basically, Java SDK is also a part of Mule SDK, and by using Java SDK, we can create custom connectors with the help of Java, and it is we can create a multiple kind of connector which is having quite good amount of functionality. We can connect with third party as well as many. We can also perform some logic. Basically, Java SDK includes all the JDK as well as GRE, which is required for compiling and interpreting our Java application. And it is basically having all the tools, framework, libraries, which are required for creating custom connector in Java. Moving further, this is basically module structure of Java. When we're using Java SDK, this kind of structure would be followed. This is the module which basically which is the parent or kind of connector which we are going to create. Then we are having configuration, connection provider, parameter, as well as the component. Configuration is basically the kind of parameter which user wants to add or some configuration required for the connector. Then we are having connection provider which will connect to the third party system, and all those values we can take it from the parameters. And these are all the component in component we are having multiple function scope, router, source, and operations, which is required for successfully creating one Java connector. Then we are before creating this custom connector, we need some pre-required software like JDK is also required for building and compiling our application. Then Apache Maven is required for building the project. Then so let's start. So if we going to start with the creating the project, creating the basically custom connector using this, then this particular command is required. So this whole command is required. That is maven awk.mule extension mule hyphen extension archetype mule plugin 1.2.0.generate. It is required for creating the project, the sample custom connector project. Then there would be some fields required, like which we need to provide some group ID, name for the connector, and version. That information needs to be provided. We need to enter that information, and then we can create some sample project which we can import in our Anypoint Studio, and we can make some logic in over there. And then while creating a connector, we may come up with some errors. It may require some plugin repository, so we can add this particular plugin repository to successfully run our application connector. Then let's suppose we have created the whole application, the basically sample connector. It is having some these sample files that is required. So extension.java is required for basically we are having multiple file configuration, connection provider, and operation. We can also have multiple, like we are having multiple operations file, we are having multiple connection provider files. So in extension.java we are just basically consolidating all those files which are required, and then we are having configuration.java, in which we'll provide some values which are like, for example, we want to provide some API URL, we can add it in configuration.xml. Then we are having connection.java. In connection.java, it will connect with the third party application or the target system which we are going to connect. Then we are having connection provider.java. It is basically provide the connection to the operations, where we'll perform all the logic which is required for creating a custom connector. Now let's move to the implementation part. So while moving to the implementation part, we need this particular command. Let's copy this command and move to, let's see how we can create a sample. Just paste this and run. Now it is asking for some values like name of the extension. I'm as of now I'm giving MuleSoft Meetup demo. Then it is asking for group ID. We can give some group ID like, then it will ask for artifact ID. Then it is asking for version. As we are creating this application for the first time, then the version would be 1.0.0. Then we are having main package name which is required. Then we can add any value like org dot. Now we got this build success. Now we can see we got some demo connector over here, which is having all the files. And if we open this README, it is having this dependency, which is required for running this application in some system API or some any API which in which we want to use this connector. So let's import this project in our system. I'm going it from the import. We are having this Mule demo connector. No need to perform any update over here. Now we got this sample connector, and in this connector we are having the files which I recently talked about. These all the five files are there, like operation, extension, connector provider, connection provider, connection, and configuration. Let's suppose if we want to run this application, let me try to run this sample connector. Basically try to build this connector. I'm doing skip test for skipping all the test cases if we are having any in our application. Now we are getting this error, which we can solve by adding this particular dependency that I've recently talked about, this plugin repository. Let's copy this and add it in our project. Move to POM. Just add this dependency over here. Save this and now try to rerun this application. We may be getting some. Let me try it again. Yeah, we are getting some error. Maybe I provided some wrong values over here while providing the values. Yeah, from here I have provided some wrong values which we maybe require to rerun this. Let me try to recreate this project. Test connector, we need to provide some group ID, that is test connector. Then extension version would be 1.0.0. Then we are having main package version. We can make an now we are again got a build success. Let's try to import this again and see whether it is working or not. This is test connector. No need to perform any update. So in test connector, we are having all the same files which are required, and in POM we are. Let me open the POM. In POM we also need to add that plugin repository. Let me copy it again. To rebuild this application. There is one typo, that is tests, not tests. So let me rerun this with the tests again. Now we got the build success. Now we are able to get this whole connector in our local repository. And let's suppose if we want to use the same connector which we have recently created, like test extension, we can create some sample Mule application. Test API. We got this test API, and in test API POM, we need to add the dependency created connector, and I am having this test connector dependency. Just copy this. In the dependency tab, we need to add this, like in dependency we are having this, and replace these values. These are some explanation required. I'm skipping for now, but if we move here, and I'm getting this test which I've recently created, and it is having some default connectors, like say hi and retrieve info. We can use it in our application for performing some function. Now I am having two custom connectors are ready. First one is the currency converter. Let me open this one. This is also having all the same files which we have recently seen. We are having operation. In operation, we are having one method that is a public method, that is currency exchange. In this, we are passing some parameters like from, to, and value. These are all the parameters which we can. Let me open once. We are taking from user like this. User is sending these values or putting these values. Then we are calling private method, that is calculate value. Just give me Yeah, we are passing all the values over here. Then in this we are performing some logic, that is get exchange rate method is called. In get exchange rate method, uh, we are calling to this connection provider where we are having some connect method, and in connect method further calling to this exchange connect exchange connection. In exchange connection, we are passing this URL. We are setting this URL which is required for creating a connection with the target system. And in configuration, we are having this URL. We are taking the URL from this configuration. In operation, here we have created the object for getting that URL. Once we got the URL, we are sending that URL in get exchange rate further to send that URL to connection provider further call connection to create the connection with the target system. And once we got the connection in connection provider provide that connection to the operation for performing the operation we want based on our logic. Then here we are getting the response connection dot get response code. And let's suppose if we got the response code as http dot ok, that means we are getting the success response. And once we got the response, we can take the response which we got and uh, print it, or we can use that response anywhere. Let me try to run this connector and see how it's working. I'm running it in the debug mode. Now it got successfully deployed. Let's move to this Postman collection for running this. I am having the Postman connection ready where I'm passing INR to OMR conversion. Let's send the request again to our connector, and we are getting this value. OMR to INR conversion is this. We can also change it to some other. Let's suppose if I change it to OMR to INR to USD, then based on that we'll get the response. Yeah, we are getting the response there if we want to convert it into the some other. And that particular, we are basically using some external API that is basically providing us the base value for the from which we want to convert. And now I'm also having one more connector is ready, that is basically a weather forecasting. uh, this is the weather forecasting connector. In this we are having again the same files are there, same by using the same procedure we are having all the methods are over there, like check weather we are there. And by this I am only taking value from this only city value I'm taking from the user and provides the city name, and based on that we can provide the weather details all which are required or which we are taking from the API external call. So these are all the methods, and we are again calling this get weather connection, which is further called to connection provider, and in connection provider we'll then again go to connection for building the connection with the end system. Now in test weather, I'm using this connector, that is weather forecast based on city. Let me debug this one. Yeah, now it's got deployed. Let's see. Let's check. Basically, I'm passing as a URI param Chandigarh for city Chandigarh. I'm fetching the weather forecast. So let's send the request over here. I'm getting this for Chandigarh city. These are all the things I got, like country, India, latitude, longitude, time zone ID I got, and some other information is also there. Uh, we are having different sunset value, pressure, wind speed, humidity, etc. Let's try to fetch it from some other city. I'm trying to fetch it for Delhi. Now we got all the details for Delhi, India, country, India, latitude, longitude details, and all those details we got here. Yeah. Now, now it is very much similar. If we want to change some icon, it's very much similar with the XML, which Navkaran recently shared the information regarding that. We just need to create a folder, that is icon folder. Uh, it must be here. Yeah, here in this connector, we are having this icon folder, and icon.svg file is there for adding the icon over here. And let's suppose if we want to make some modification in our connector, uh, after creating all the modifications, I just need to change the version over here and also need to rebuild this application. And after that, in our API where we are using this connector, we just need to change the version in the dependency. Then we can get all the changes which we have done in uh, our connector. So yeah, this is the part for Java MuleSoft connector. So yeah, let's move to the presentation again. These are these are the references which we used for creating this custom connectors. Now Q&A session. If you guys have any question, you can ask it in chat. We are definitely try our best to answer those questions.
Yeah, we have
Now,
some questions in the chat already. Maybe we can take some time, pause here,
yeah,
and
yeah, sure.
maybe
And after
Anil,
that,
Navkaran, and Achaleshwar, please
sure,
go
sure.
through the questions. Yeah,
We'll go through the questions, and after that, we are having trivia
yeah.
session would be there. Yeah. Let me.
Please stop sharing your screen, and only I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah.
able to share. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yes.
Everyone, please go to menti.com and enter the code 25734154. We'll wait for some time for people to join. So I'm starting the quiz. Anil, shall I go ahead?
Can we wait for a minute because 24 people
Okay,
and
okay, sure,
we
sure,
have
sure.
21 attendees. Let me post the URL and code as well so that people can join by using that.
Yeah, sure.
Still people are joining. You can use this menti.com along with the code which I have posted in the chat. And
Yeah, we can start.
we can start. I don't see any people so far.
So here's your first question. So 23 people have answered it correctly. Let's go to the leaderboard. So Manan is leading, followed by Manik and Debu. Let's go to the next question. So only 5 people got it correct this time. Let's go to the leaderboard. So this leaderboard is consolidated, right? So now we have, now Manik is leading, followed by Shivans and Saksham. Let's go to the third question. We'll see the leaderboard. This will give the final leaderboard. Manik is leading. Okay, Manik is the winner. Congratulations. That's it. Let me present my screen. Go back to. So, thanks everyone for joining. Please share this meetup using the hashtag meetups, and do give your feedback on meetups@mulesoft.com. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you so
everyone.
much, everyone, for
Thank
joining
you
this
so much,
session. And
everyone.
you can also connect with us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, you can also ask from there too. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you all.